EU leaders started plotting their revenge on Britain after former Prime Minister David Cameron used his veto to block institutional changes to the Lisbon Treaty in 2011, unearthed reports reveal. After 3 years of political wrangling, Britain finally left the EU at 11 p.m. on January 31. It is a new chapter for the country's national history, one that will hopefully see the UK return to being an independent sovereign state after the transition period. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has less than 7 months to negotiate a free trade agreement, but there still appears to be significant differences between the negotiating positions of the two sides. Brussels continues to insist on maintaining its current fishing rights in British waters and wants London to agree to a number of EU regulations, including environmental standards, workers' rights and state aid rules. On the other hand, Mr. Johnson is demanding the right to diverge from the bloc's rules in order to strike trade agreements around the world. According to unearthed reports, Britain learnt in 2011 that the EU was not willing to compromise and engage with its concerns and objections. 9 years ago, as the crisis in the Eurozone reached its peak, the bloc needed to make urgent institutional changes to prevent financial disaster, and change to the Lisbon Treaty was proposed. However, institutional changes to the primary law had to be agreed and ratified by all member states, and former Prime Minister David Cameron only agreed to the revision if other EU leaders guaranteed to protect the position of the City of London. The EU rejected Mr. Cameron's demands, and the former Prime Minister decided to use his veto to block the EU-wide treaty, claiming he had to protect key British interests, including its financial markets. However, that same day, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy hailed a «historic breakaway» Euro plus bloc that would have pursued fiscal and economic union via a new treaty outside the EU, leaving Britain isolated and not part of the negotiations. Despite Brussels effectively circumventing Britain out of the talks, according to a 2011 report by the Daily Express, senior figures in the EU wanted to use the powerful voting majority of the new Eurozone fiscal union bloc to punish the UK for using its veto. Some were reportedly calling for a deluge of new regulations and red tape to be imposed on British business. Others were even calling for Britain to be driven out of Europe altogether.